Welcome to James Madison's Montpelier. I'm Ryan Nobles of NBC 12 in Richmond, and we're continuing our discussion on the Bill of Rights with Peter Irons, who's the Political Science Professor Emeritus from UC San Diego and a graduate of Harvard Law, Tim Longo, the Chief of Police in Charlottesville and an attorney himself, and Stuart Harris, who hosts a weekly public radio show called Your Weekly Constitutional and is on the faculty at Appalachian Law School. We're first going to talk about the First Amendment, free speech, press, all the variety of things that fall under the First Amendment. And I'll start with you, Stuart. What's one of the most important aspects of the First Amendment that people often overlook?
Well, something that never occurred to me until I actually started studying it was that freedom of speech really is protecting freedom of thought. And many of the people watching this might have read the novel by George Orwell, 1984. And they may recall that one of the things that an authoritarian state did in that novel was actually try to destroy the English language and replace it with something called newspeak that had no word for freedom. So the ability of us to communicate our ideas, it's not the same thing as free thought, but it's so closely related that I think that's really the way I think of the First Amendment now.
Peter, how about you? What would you say is one of the most things that people often overlook when it comes to the First Amendment?
I think it's the fact that it's not an absolute right. There are limits, and in fact the limits are sometimes quite narrow. There's this doctrine called time, place, and manner. There are places and times and ways of expressing speech, both written speech and verbal speech, that intrude on other people's privacy. For example, you can't have a loud megaphone in the middle of the night in front of somebody's house. But speech itself, as Stuart said, is really an expression of thought. And to many people, there are thoughts that are hateful or dangerous that should be limited or even criminalized. And so there's a lot of conflict about that.
How about you, Chief? Is there something that we haven't touched on yet that you think is often overlooked when it comes to the First Amendment?
Well, let me speak to my subpopulation of people, cops. It amazes me how little police really understand about the context of the First Amendment and how it influences our work, from the enforcement of disorderly conduct statutes, for our ability to be able to recognize when someone's lawfully challenging our authority by expressing their views for how they think we're doing our job or not doing our job. And I think we spend so much time on the other aspects of the Constitution that affect police work that we don't pay enough attention to the First Amendment and the freedom of speech and the other freedoms that amendment provides to
Is that
Americans.
something you try and educate your young officers in when they first come to work for you, that they need to understand that aspect of it?
Now more than ever before, particularly with the Occupy movement and other things that are taking place across the country where people are exercising First Amendment rights, both with respect to speech and also assembly. And so if police officers are tasked with the enforcement of those laws and that affect those rights, but also to protect those rights, they really need to have a more than basic understanding, but an intimate understanding of the First Amendment and the protections that it affords.
Not all police officers are as enlightened as the Charlottesville force, and very often they intrude upon. For example, there have been a lot of controversy lately about people who are filming either with videos or on their cell phones, police officers making arrests, and they've been charged with disrupting a police operation, and they're actually exercising their right to free speech. And courts have held this, but there's still a lot of conflict around the edges of the First Amendment.
The speech and press clauses protect unpopular speech, and they protect it against the majority. There's no need to protect popular speech. If I want to go out there and say something that everybody agrees with, well then, no one's going to get mad at me, no one's going to try to arrest me, no one's going to try to silence me. If I start saying something that's really nasty, take your pick, whatever it is. If I want to say something that's racist, if I want to say something that's politically unpopular, if I want to attack people's religious beliefs, whatever it is, that's when the First Amendment kicks in. And it's no answer to say, well, everybody disagrees with you, so you should shut up. That's what the First Amendment protects, whether it's on videotape or whether it's just you and I talking.
Perhaps the best example of that is the Westboro Baptist Church, right? It seems as though
exactly.
they'll show up at some things that most people would find pretty offensive at a soldier's funeral or something along those lines, but yet the Supreme Court has upheld that they have that right. Is that right, Peter?
As long as they're exercising their free speech rights on public property, they're not disrupting traffic, no matter what the content of their message, they have a right to do that. But a lot of people, as you know, find that highly offensive. I mean, it's probably one of the most hateful things you can do to say, we're glad the soldier died. But this all goes back to a case long ago called Chaplinsky versus New Hampshire, where there was a Jehovah's Witness who was handing out tracts and making speeches in Rochester, New Hampshire. And he attracted a crowd of people who were very upset about his doing this. And the police came and arrested him for creating a disturbance. And the Supreme Court ruled in that case back in the 1940s that he had a right to express that view.
No matter how offensive it may be.
That's right.
Right. And freedom isn't always easy, right? All right. Thank you, gentlemen.